Chris Watts appeared on TV begging for his missing wife and daughters to come home. He looked like the perfect worried husband and father, but he had already murdered them and buried their bodies. This is how his lies unraveled on live television. Welcome back to Crime Secrets, where we expose the most shocking family murders that stunned the world. Today's case isn't just about a triple homicide. It's about deception, betrayal, and how a man could murder his own family and then lie to the world with a straight face. The Chris Watts family murders shocked America and revealed how evil can hide behind the perfect family facade. What you're about to hear will make you question everything you think you know about the people closest to you. Chris Lee Watts seemed to have it all. Born in 1985 in North Carolina, he was a tall, athletic man who worked as an oil field operator in Colorado. In 2012, he married Shanann Catherine Razuchek, a vibrant woman from North Carolina who worked in sales and had a passion for health and wellness products. From the outside, the Watts family looked picture perfect. Shanann was active on social media, constantly posting loving photos of their life together. She documented every milestone: their wedding, their home in Frederick, Colorado, family vacations, and the births of their daughters. Their first daughter, Bella Marie, was born in December 2013. She was a bright, energetic child who adored her father. In July 2015, their second daughter, Celeste Catherine, was born. The family called her CeCe, and she was equally beloved by her parents. Shanann's social media presence painted the picture of domestic bliss. Her Facebook and Instagram accounts were filled with photos of Chris being a loving father, playing with the girls, taking them on adventures, and appearing to be completely devoted to his family. Chris seemed to enjoy the attention and praise from Shanann's followers, who constantly commented on what a wonderful husband and father he was. But behind the carefully curated social media posts, cracks were beginning to show in their marriage. Chris was becoming increasingly distant and irritable. He started working out obsessively, losing weight, and changing his appearance. Shanann noticed the changes but attributed them to work stress and health kicks. What Shanann didn't know was that Chris had begun an affair with a co-worker named Nicole Kessinger. Nicole was a young single woman who worked as a contractor for Anadarko Petroleum, the same company where Chris was employed. The affair began in June 2018, just 2 months before the murders. Chris was completely infatuated with Nicole, seeing her as his escape from what he had begun to view as the burden of family life. He told Nicole that he was separated from his wife and in the process of getting divorced. Chris went to extraordinary lengths to maintain his double life. He would delete text messages, use dating apps, and lie about his whereabouts. He even researched how to hide affairs online and looked up information about divorce proceedings and child custody arrangements. Meanwhile, Shanann was planning for their future. In June 2018, she discovered she was pregnant with their third child. She was thrilled and couldn't wait to tell Chris the news. But when she revealed the pregnancy to him, his reaction was lukewarm at best. Instead of joy, Chris felt trapped. The pregnancy represented everything Chris wanted to escape from: more responsibility, more financial pressure, and less freedom to pursue his relationship with Nicole. He began to see his family not as a blessing, but as an obstacle to his happiness. In July 2018, Shanann took the girls to North Carolina to visit her family, giving Chris several weeks alone. During this time, his affair with Nicole intensified. They spent nights together, went on dates, and Chris experienced the single life he felt he had missed out on. But Shanann was becoming suspicious. She noticed changes in Chris's behavior during their phone calls and video chats. He seemed disinterested in talking to her and the girls, often cutting conversations short or appearing distracted. When Shanann returned from North Carolina on August 12, 2018, she was determined to save her marriage. She had planned a romantic evening for her and Chris, hoping to reconnect and work through their problems. She even purchased a book about saving marriages and left it on Chris's nightstand. That evening, Shanann attended a work meeting for her health and wellness company, Thrive. She came home around 2 a.m. on August 13th, exhausted but hopeful about working things out with Chris. She had no idea that this would be the last night of her life. According to Chris's later confession, the murders began in the early morning hours of August 13th, 2018. Chris claimed that he told Shanann he wanted a separation, which led to an emotional confrontation between them. In his confession, Chris stated that during their argument, Shanann threatened to take the children away from him and make sure he never saw them again. He claimed this threat triggered something in him, and he strangled Shanann in a fit of rage. But the horror didn't end there. Chris's daughters, 4-year-old Bella and 3-year-old CeCe, woke up and came into their parents' bedroom. They saw their mother's lifeless body and began asking questions. Chris knew he couldn't let them live as witnesses to what he had done. In perhaps the most chilling part of his confession, Chris admitted to loading Shanann's body into his truck along with both girls who were still alive. He drove them to a remote oil site owned by his company, CeCe 319. During the drive, Bella asked him repeatedly if her mommy was sick. At the oil site, Chris did the unthinkable. He smothered both Bella and CeCe, killing his own daughters in cold blood. He then disposed of their small bodies by stuffing them into oil tanks, believing the crude oil would dissolve the evidence. He buried Shanann in a shallow grave nearby. After committing these horrific murders, Chris returned home and began the performance of his life. He showered, got dressed for work, and left the house as if nothing had happened. He even stopped to buy breakfast and coffee, maintaining his normal routine. When Shanann's friend and colleague, Nicole Atkinson, came to check on her later that day, Chris played the part of the confused, worried husband. Nicole had been concerned because Shanann had missed a doctor's appointment and wasn't responding to calls or texts. Chris told Nicole that Shanann had left early that morning to take the girls to a friend's house, and he hadn't heard from them since. He claimed to be worried but maintained a calm demeanor that would later be analyzed by body language experts as showing signs of deception. As the hours passed and Shanann remained missing, Chris continued his act. He called her phone repeatedly, left voicemails expressing concern, and even posted on social media asking for prayers for his missing family. On August 14th, just one day after murdering his family, Chris appeared on local television news programs to appeal for their safe return. These interviews would later become some of the most chilling footage in true crime history. In his first interview with Denver 7, Chris stood on his front porch, speaking calmly about his missing wife and daughters. "I hope that she's somewhere safe right now and with the kids," he said, his voice steady and his demeanor eerily calm for someone whose family had supposedly vanished. When asked about their marriage, Chris claimed everything was fine. "It was just like, last night we had an emotional conversation, but I'll leave it at that," he said, providing just enough information to seem cooperative while hiding the true nature of their conversation. Throughout the interview, Chris displayed behavior that experts would later identify as signs of deception. He avoided eye contact, touched his neck frequently, and used past tense when referring to his wife and daughters, subtle linguistic clues that suggested he knew they were already dead. The most disturbing moment came when the reporter asked Chris what he would say to his family if they were watching. Chris looked directly into the camera and said, "Shanann, Bella, CeCe, if you're out there, just come back. Like, if somebody has you, just let them come back." The performance was convincing enough that some viewers felt sympathy for the distraught father, but body language experts and law enforcement officials were already noting inconsistencies in his behavior and story. As the investigation progressed, Chris's story began to fall apart. Surveillance footage from a neighbor's house showed Chris loading his truck on the morning of August 13th, but there was no evidence of Shanann or the girls leaving the house. Cell phone data revealed that Shanann's phone had stopped transmitting from their house at 2:03 a.m., shortly after she arrived home. Chris's phone showed he had traveled to the CeCe oil site early that morning, contradicting his claim that he had gone straight to work. When investigators searched the house, they found Shanann's wedding ring on the nightstand and her purse and keys still in the house. If she had left voluntarily with the children, she would have taken these items. Most damning was the discovery of bedsheets missing from the master bedroom. Chris claimed Shanann had taken them when she left, but this explanation made no sense if she had supposedly left for a friend's house. On August 15th, Chris was arrested and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. When confronted with the evidence, his facade finally cracked. After hours of interrogation, Chris finally confessed to murdering his family. Initially, he tried to minimize his role, claiming he had killed Shanann in a rage after she killed the children. But this lie quickly fell apart when investigators pointed out that the children's bodies were found in oil tanks that only Chris had access to. Eventually, Chris admitted to killing all 3 members of his family. His confession was cold and matter-of-fact, showing no remorse for his actions. He described the murders in clinical detail, as if he were discussing a work project rather than the systematic elimination of his own family. The confession revealed the true motive. Chris had wanted to start a new life with Nicole Kessinger and saw his family as an obstacle to his happiness. He had calculated that murdering them was easier than going through a divorce. Chris Watts was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He is currently serving his sentence at Dodge Correctional Institution in Wisconsin, where he will remain for the rest of his life. The case shocked the nation and sparked discussions about domestic violence, the facade of social media perfection, and how well we really know the people we love. Shanann's family has worked to keep her memory alive and advocate for victims of domestic violence. The Chris Watts case serves as a chilling reminder that evil can hide behind the most ordinary facades. A man who appeared to be a loving husband and father was capable of the most heinous crimes imaginable. His cold, calculated murder of his pregnant wife and 2 young daughters shocked the world and showed that sometimes the person you trust most is the one you should fear. If this case disturbed you as much as it disturbed us, subscribe to Crime Secrets for more investigations into family murders and domestic violence cases. Because sometimes the greatest danger comes from within your own home.